Hello, hello, hello. Thank you all, first of all, for those who are joining my live, who are going to join my live in a minute or two. I told you guys, Women's History Month. I want to make this platform for my women. You know, this is about us. This is about our accomplishments and the things that we want to do, the things that we are doing, and the things that we are going to do. But today, I am honored to have a woman who is making history, and she is the first Black female pastor of the First Congregational Church, Norwalk. I have the honor of having Reverend Tamara Moreland with me today.
Thank you.
Hey, Tamara. Reverend Moreland. So do you go by Reverend Moreland, PT, for Pastor Tamara, or Pastor? What do you prefer?
So in a formal capacity, I say Reverend.
Okay.
But for my members, I say Pastor Tamara because it's a little more informal and it speaks to the role of a shepherd.
Okay.
And the kids call me Pastor T.
Okay. All right. And BK and I call you PT.
Oh, that's what you all call me? Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't
know. So we
that.
don't say the full name and all that other
PT.
stuff.
Okay.
We do say PT.
All right.
So Pastor Tamara.
Yes.
Thank you so much for being here.
I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm excited. First of all, I'm very proud of you.
Thank you.
I am honored that you're here, and I'm very happy that you're here in a historical position right now. How does that make you feel?
I drink it in every day, right? So the First Congregational Church of Norwalk was established in 1652. So it's 374 years old.
Whoa.
Right. And so I am the first woman to be installed and the first Black person ever. So there's just a little bit of weight on me to walk into this role. But it is amazing how throughout my life and experiences that I've had, that was really God's preparation. You know?
So when you really sit with that, how does that make you feel? Like, do you feel honored? Do you feel excitement? Like, what is it that you feel just to know that you're walking in history and in your calling at the same time?
So what's funny is that I try not to think about it too much because it's scary.
Okay.
But I just think about the fact that I was called to this and I take it seriously. I honor that call, right? I know I didn't get here by accident. And so, you know, it keeps me focused. It keeps me a little bit afraid, which I think is good. I know I've heard you say that before.
Yes.
That it's good to have a little fear.
That's right.
That fear helps me to maintain my positive attitude and to be professional.
Okay. So when you sit with that, when did it truly hit you that, or has it hit you that it's bigger than you? Because I've heard you say that many times, you know, but of course my audience haven't had the pleasure of hearing you say that. But you always say that this is bigger than me. Yeah. I mean, you know, God is showing off. So like, talk a little bit about it being bigger than you and how God has been showing off in your life. What do you mean by that?
When God calls you to something, God puts you in a place where you really can't do it without God, right? So I'm often amazed when people will come to me and say, I'm called to be a pastor, I'm called to preach. And I go, I say, okay, go back and keep doing what you've been doing. And so the largeness of it all, it can stifle you. So again, I don't focus on it, but I'm cognizant of it, right?
Okay.
I know every time I step into that pulpit, my knees still shake.
Good.
Right? My knees still shake, and I still take my time to pray and humble myself and ask God to guide me. But it is overwhelming to be in that place, and people, you know, are starting to recognize that because a lot of people don't know the story, and they're like, "You're there, and you're the first woman. You know, how does that feel?" And I do joke with some people, and I tell them that I walk in like a man.
Okay.
That's helped me my whole career, right? I walk in like a man. I walk in like I belong there, even
because you
until
do.
I believe it, right?
Right. Right. So when did you know? When did you first get that calling? Speaking on calling, like when did you know you were called and that you know what? And when you got the call, and I'm talking about that calling from God that you know what, this is what you need to be doing, and you're gonna do it. When you got that, like how, like what is that like? Like what? So what is the calling? When do you feel that, and how did you respond to it? Did you run? Did you um be obedient?
I sensed the call when I was young, right? I'd be in church and something would be happening, and I'd get this feeling, and tears would come, and I just, wipe them away, and I'd keep on running. Um, and then I went to Catholic school for a minute, and I always ended up being somebody who would be praying for people,
Okay.
right? And so then I would be the person to do the prayers over the loudspeaker and so forth. And then as I got older, I had a sense of it, but I didn't want to be in church like that. My grandfather was a minister, and he was one of the founders of a church up in Hartford. And so I went to that church, but that wasn't the trajectory for my life. I wanted to go to law school, I wanted to do other things. And then eventually I heard the call, and it came. It was a what we call a Pauline moment, when Paul got knocked off the horse. It was a knocking me off of my life. It was what my friend Shelley calls a creative disruption. God
Okay.
disrupted everything in my life and said, say yes. And I still tried to hide it. And I would go places and meet people, and they'd say, are you a minister? I said, why they say that? I go to the movies, right? Are you a minister? Two people sitting on side of me. I'm going to the movies by myself, no matter when I went. And so the last time was I was in my mom's beauty shop, and I was getting my hair. Back in the day, we got a press and curl, or you
Mm-hmm.
had a roller set.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm under the dryer, and this bishop came over, and she said, knock, knock, knock. When you gonna say yes? So I knew it was time. I knew
Mm.
it was time. But my philosophy has always been to run as long as you can, do whatever you can do until you know you can no longer do it.
Okay.
There's
Oh,
nothing else that I would do but
oh,
what I'm doing now.
oh, I hear that.
Yeah, nothing else.
So, what do you think your past experiences, or what were your past experiences that prepared you for this role, for this particular role? Not
Hmm.
necessarily um, being a pastor or being ordained reverend minister, but being here in Norwalk at the first congregational church, the first Black woman, with a diverse congregation. Like what in your past prepared you
Amen for
for
that.
this moment right now that you're walking in?
Well, I've always been in diverse situations, right? So I went to a Catholic high school, and I laugh as I think about it now because it was multicultural, but I was like the first Black cheerleader, right? I was the
Okay.
first president of the Spanish club. So I'm looking back, and I could see that where I had been the first before. Um, and then I laughed that I'm sitting here today. I went to school for communications. I used to do a radio show, right? And it's so funny
Ooh.
though that ministry is speaking before people. I didn't speak, but I always talked too much. So my mother got a note every week that Tamara was talking in class, right? So, all of that was the foundational stuff. But then the jobs that I had, working with young people, working in administration, having mentors all over the place. I remember working at Catholic Charities, and I had a large staff, and every woman was a bivocational minister,
Really?
and I was the director of the program. And I was like, really? How's everybody? So God had me surrounded,
Okay.
right, with people who were praying, but that was preparation to be over ministers, to train ministers, right, to be pastoral to ministers. So I just look at all of those different things.
And isn't that part of your past also? You trained ministers
Yes.
at, so what was that? Like was
So for about 9 years, I was what's called in my denomination a regional minister. Now they call them area ministers.
okay.
So I had responsibility for 107 churches when I left. When I started, it was about 75. And so that meant that, I provided support for them if they were in crises. I was there to assist. I do trainings at their churches. I preach at their churches. But I was the go-to person for anything that they may have been experiencing or going through. I was the person that approved, profiles if they wanted to circulate them. If there was a need for correction, I staffed the committees on ministry that review pastors every year. So I laugh again that I did that for 9 years. And when I left there, I came here. So all of that helped me because it
Right.
also helped me to really have an understanding of the denomination, to really see what pastors were going through today. Because I had been a pastor before, but I was a pastor to pastors. So coming back, I was able to utilize all those things that I learned and I saw.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Pastors to pastors. That's like I call myself, and I am the manager's manager. So
Yes.
I manage managers.
Yes.
You understand what I mean? So
Yeah.
I really get that
Yeah.
with the pastors.
It's a different role because you're really equals,
Right.
but you have a set of experience and a set of skills where you're able to assist them and motivate them and give them ideas to move forward.
Yes. Yep. Now you told me a story.
Oh
I don't know if
Lord.
you want to share the story, but I love it because it speaks determination about you and your friend Shelly
Mhm.
when you both went to school, how you started school and how you were determined to get to school.
Yeah.
I want my audience to hear that because it's not only is it funny, but it really speaks of determination and being obedient at the same time.
Well, we both had careers, and we ended up at Yale Divinity School together. And we were laughing because there were two defining moments. I thought the car situation was the first one, but she first met me coming out of a cave. Back in the day, there was like a cave, like a tomb in the basement.
Hmm.
And seminarians would go there and they would study and pray. And I was coming up crying, like, God, what are you doing? I was in awe of, I'm on Yale's campus. And, it was just like, have I really done this? Because I had friends who made fun of me when I left my job. They were like, you're in line for this. You got a corner office right now. What is wrong with you? You're going to leave to be a Jesus freak. And,
Hmm.
so I didn't have a whole lot of support for leaving that to go to school. And so I was coming upstairs crying, and Shelley was like, what's wrong? And I told her what was happening. And then I met her for real, real in the parking lot at school. And we both, again, had left careers and were going to seminary. And I pull up and I had this cute old Saab, right? It was a gray Saab with a black top. That was a convertible. And the convertible didn't work anymore. The heat didn't come on. The locks didn't lock. I mean, I couldn't get in the trunk. It was like, and it looked kind of nice from the outside. You know how people judge you sometimes? I'm like, y'all don't even know.
Right.
Right. And so I pull in, and then my girl pulls in next to me, and she's got a burgundy Volvo, right? An old Volvo that's got, rotten at the bottom. She had a bungee cord across the hood so so it keep the hood down. And we're laughing like we're rolling up in Yale like this, but that was the preparation part,
I love it.
right? Whether no matter what you have or don't have, you keep moving. And God taught us something through that, right? To continue to be persistent, to continue to go after what God has called you to do, and to be able to stand in yourself, because people are going to judge you whether you're doing good or not.
Right.
I've just learned to turn the voices off.
Right.
And when I hear the voices, I know I need to go away and go get some time. But that was just one of the many
I
experiences.
love that. I love that story because I can picture it. The fly gray side, but you got to get there before it turns dark and make sure it don't rain, make sure the weather is good enough. And even if it isn't, you still have to drive in it.
Yep.
But then Shelly with the bungee cord holding it down.
That was wild. Well, we had another situation that helped to define us, is that there was another Black woman who was a seminarian student.
Mm-hmm.
And it was too much for her because what you're learning is not what you learned in Bible study in school, right? When you learn so-and-so didn't really write this book and there were all these other authors and all. And I'm like, there wasn't Jesus, And so it messes with your faith.
Okay.
And this one particular young woman, no one could find her. And she disappeared.
Mm.
And so her family came and got her. She kind of lost it, but her car stayed in the parking lot. And grass had grew up over it before they came to get her car, all around it through the cracks.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a reminder for us. Every day we looked at that.
Really?
Like, we're gonna make it.
Wow.
We're gonna make it.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
And that's a visual for you.
Oh, it was a real visual. Every time we tried to park on the other side. It was like
Nobody wanted to see the car with the grass because it was that much pressure.
Yeah.
Going to seminary school.
Yeah.
So, speaking of pressure, so being in a historic church, right? with so much history,
Mhm.
um, how do you balance the history with your vision and moving forward with the whole transformation? Because I'm sure it's changed. I mean, it's not the what year did you say it was?
1652.
1652.
And
So
Norwalk was established in 1651. So we were the first church in Norwalk.
literally the first
Literally
church
the
in
first. And
Norwalk.
other churches back then couldn't even come into town without our permission.
Okay, now
Yeah.
the boss church.
And then when
The
the other
church of all
towns were
churches.
established, then, Westport and other areas that were, then churches went in those areas.
Wow, I didn't know that. I didn't
Yeah.
know you had to check in with
Yeah.
FCC.
Because those congregational churches were considered kind of state churches.
Oh,
Because that's
okay.
why they're called meeting houses. So what I'm doing now is bringing people back into the church for community events, because that's where most of the common council meetings and all that stuff was held in a church.
Mm, okay.
So,
So how do you speak about your vision for the church and with the history of the church? I'm sure it's not easy just to um, come through. First of all, being a woman. Second of all, being a black woman. Okay, and third of all, making change in a church
yeah.
that that's not really. I can't really say it's not used to change, but
Not this, not this much.
that's what I mean.
Not
So
me.
that's a lot. Yeah, that's a lot
Not
for a
me.
church to take in.
Yeah,
You
it
know, a
is.
woman, a black
Yeah.
woman, and then coming with a new vision, and
Yeah.
and because the last pastor was it Reverend Yordi or
Hank Jordan was the pastor
Jordan,
for 42 years.
42
So most
years.
people in Norwalk remember him. This is
Right.
the first time, I think, where there are more people coming in town who don't know him.
Okay.
So when he died around 2006, 2007, we had so much turnover
Okay.
from that then until 2020, what is this, 2026. So I was settled in 2025, which means I was called to stay as a permanent pastor. Before that, I was contractual for 4 years. And I would walk in the city and go different places, and I'd tell people where, I was a pastor. And they'd say, "Oh, you mean Hank's church?" Right?
Mm.
So if I did not have a good sense of self, that would have intimidated me. And it intimidated a lot of people who were here. So there was a lot of turnover every 2 years, every 3 years. So I now have been here the longest time since he passed. And so let me step back. First of all, church is hard anyway,
Mhm.
right? Church is one place where people don't want change. You have change everywhere in your life, but you don't want the place where you go to worship on Sunday to change, right? If you notice, families sit in the same spot all the time. You want the same thing. If I change something on the bulletin, I'm going to launch a new bulletin next week, y'all. You change the bulletin, people get upset. Well, what are you making all these changes? I changed the color. You know what I mean? It's like I changed the color. But it's the one place where there's so much change in your life and everything is happening. People want it to be a place that's secure, where they
Right.
can count on something. So it means that I have to be very careful and strategic about the change. The good thing is that I came right at the end of COVID. And so COVID just busted up everything, but I still have some people who want to go back. But what I'm trying to do is not necessarily my vision. What is God's vision for this place? I
Okay.
mean, when I step in there, I see what God had this man to do, right? We've got the church, we've got Christian Counseling Center, we've got a preschool, there's Elder House in the back. And so I look at that campus and see those connections where people can connect with us from birth to close to death,
Mhm.
right? So the thing is, it stays the same, but the methodology has to change.
Okay.
So like we're doing social media,
Right.
right? A lot of people didn't want to do that. I bought some TVs to put screens up in the church, and the church wasn't ready for it, right? So they're still in storage. I'm gonna pull them out soon. I'm pulling them out soon, y'all. But it wasn't time yet because the church was not accustomed to that. This church was not even live streaming worship until COVID. So it was a culture shock. But that culture shock, again, that disruption has helped me to bring some new things in.
Mm.
But one thing that I am clear about in this foundational, it is Jesus's church. It is not mine.
Okay.
I'm called to be a shepherd of it. And so whatever I'm doing has a biblical premise to it,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
I think that.
Yeah, that's good. And you're doing a great job. I've been there more than a few. I can't even say a few Sundays. Now I have to say countless Sundays. And I've heard you speak. And what I love about the way I don't know if preaching and speaking. So I don't
It's
know if I
different.
say preach. I want to say preach and speak
I think they
together.
call them treachers.
Oh, treachers.
Right.
Yes, you're a wonderful treacher.
Right.
What I loved is from the very first time I went there, every
Mhm.
single Sunday I've been there, I've learned something. And I think I told you, and I'm a professional student. I
I know.
always want
No
to
matter
learn.
what book I mention to her, she knows. Yeah, I read that. What's the
Yeah.
name of that book?
Yeah,
Yeah.
got it. I love
Yeah.
it. So for you, and you come prepared.
Yeah, I can't not do that.
Yeah, you come
Yeah.
prepared.
Now there were times in my life I wasn't always like that. But I have learned the importance of preparation because there are times when you have nothing, it's not in your control, right? And you can't prepare the way you would like to. But that is where my life preparation and my personal study and prayer, I've got something in me. If you were to ask me a question right now about something, I got some text, some Bible, something that I can, and that was my preparation. My pastor had me teaching for years.
Okay.
Everybody else was preaching. He said, no, you're supposed to teach. And I saw people that come and they don't even know why they're there. They don't have, so I wanted to make it come alive.
Yeah.
So that's why I teach like that, because you should leave learning something.
All
Because
the time.
there's nothing wrong with raising your hands and praising God and having to shout, because I'll run if I have to. But you need something to hold on to,
Right.
right?
Right.
You need something to learn. Scripture says, my people perish for lack of knowledge.
Yes.
I don't want people to be in my midst and not gain some knowledge.
And I was going to ask you, like, when people come through those church doors, how do you want them to feel?
I want them to feel welcome. I believe in hospitality, so that's one of my big tenets. People should be welcome when they come in the door. Um, I want them to feel a sense of the Spirit, right? If you're a praying church and a worshiping church, when people come in, they should sense something, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I want them to feel different when they leave. You know, if they come with a burden, I want them to feel that it's lifted somehow, right? Or they have some tools or something they've heard that can help that burden to be lifted. And then I want them to go out and be different. I want them to go out and serve, right? So my other motto is come to worship, leave to serve.
I love that. And just speaking more on your teaching, and I know that what'd you say? It's a what is it called? The teaching preacher?
Oh, treacher.
Treacher.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm like, I keep saying teacher or preacher. What is it? Treacher.
Treacher.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
A lot of people now call themselves pastor teacher.
Oh, pastor teacher?
Yeah.
You're that and some. But what I think is so nice about you is that I've seen you speak in different capacities.
Mhm.
All right. So I've
Mhm.
had my radar on you from I
Mhm.
went to the NAACP dinner
Oh, yeah.
gala
Yeah.
and you spoke there. And
Yeah.
you know, I was blown away. I think I might have shedded a tear. I might have welled
Yeah,
up.
you did.
Yeah. 'Cause you came, yeah, you came through
I
heavy.
walked back and I looked at her and I said, what happened?
Yeah, no, you did your
Yeah.
thing, and I was just so
Yeah.
proud of you.
Yeah.
You know, and then you doubled down and did it for the mayor's inauguration.
Yeah.
You know, you spoke for the inauguration and
Yeah.
you laid that thing down. You did the inauguration prayer. And then I went to church. I think
You
I
heard
went
me
to your church
preaching.
after these things. And then
Okay.
yeah, and then I heard you preach. And I think that first time I heard you preach, you spoke about Tom Sawyer. You might have
I don't remember, but yeah.
you
'Cause
brought
I
something
always
up.
quote people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then the next time I came, you said you tied in Beyonce and Kendrick Lamar in the sermon. I said, she really trying to PK. I said, what? She said, listen, y'all got to understand whether it's Beyonce, whether it's Kendrick Lamar. You know, when she quoted what Beyonce said,
Yeah.
what song it
I remember
was.
one day you came back and told me.
Yeah.
I said,
Yeah.
I was in church learning today.
Yeah.
And it was
Yeah.
it. I love that.
Yeah. That's important. That's really important. Like I believe in learning too. Like I'm a lifelong learner. I just had the nerve to look at, do you want to go back to school again? But I want people to leave and they've learned something, but that I also want to connect with different age groups, right? So sometimes when you go to church, because I'm older now, and so I'll go, remember back in the day when we used to play this, or sometimes we'll sing some Marvin Gaye or something.
Yeah.
But I have to understand that there are people that don't know who he is,
Right.
right? So I'm talking about the Kendrick Lamar and other folks for some of my young adults,
Right.
And then you've also seen me welcoming the children. You don't see
Yes.
a lot of kids being welcomed in church.
What?
The kids are often put in the back, or they can stand up when they're prepared and there's a contest, and I just ask my kids, what do you want to pray for?
And they speak,
Yeah.
and especially little Peter and little Zeke.
Yeah.
Okay, to the point where I know him, BK. I was standing outside the hair salon, New Image Hair Salon,
Yeah.
and Peter's parents walked by, and I ran out the shop and I said, Peter's parents, and called them
I
down.
know
and
they were laughing.
Casey and
Yeah.
Allison,
Emily.
Yeah. All right, Emily and Casey, right?
Yep.
Yeah, he said, "Yep, I'm Peter's dad," which he has a nice voice. I wanted to
he
hear
has
him
a
speak.
radio voice, guys.
He has a radio voice, Peter's dad.
Yeah.
We mess around and have Peter's little self up here on this podcast, and his dad, but see, Peter's dope. So he writes you a letter every Sunday.
Every Sunday I get a little note from Peter. On the back of the bulletin, he will say, God loves you today.
Yes.
God protects her today. You're
And
wonderful. I love you.
how about what he said? He was speaking about his baptism. BK, do you remember Peter speaking about his baptism? And he said something like,
I don't remember what he said, but
yeah, but he was like on some God so loved the world.
Oh, that he
And
gave his one and only son.
Yes, and he just started laying
John
it
3:16.
down.
Yeah, he knows scripture.
Off
His
the
parents
top
are like,
of
we
his
don't
head.
know. He just studies, he just reads, he just prays. Yeah.
I love
he's
Peter
amazing.
and
Yeah.
I love Zeke. So
Yeah.
now I came up to I came up to the altar for an altar call. BK, I don't know if I told you about this one.
Mm-hmm.
But so she takes prayers. If you want her to pray for somebody or whatever. Peter wanted prayer for his friend in school.
It was a girl.
It was a girl. I said, I think Peter might have a crush. Because you said, well, why do you want me to pray for Elaine or whatever her name
Yeah, I
was?
forget.
And he said, because she's nice, she speaks to me all the time and she treats me nice. I said, listen to Peter.
Right.
In here praying for the little girl.
yeah,
Right.
I was
But
there for that.
You were
day.
there for
I
that?
was, yeah.
So
Yeah.
were you there for when Zeke wanted prayer? Because
For his
Zeke
school.
wanted prayer for his school.
He just went to a new school.
The new
Yeah, he was
school,
like, I
yeah.
want this to work out well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the funny thing with Zeke was she started off, you didn't go directly praying for his new school. So you
Okay.
said, I don't know what you said first, and
That's
Zeke was
funny.
like, no. And then you got there to the school. But I
Yeah.
love that you give the kids an area to speak and work.
Yeah.
Because I think one of them, like the teenagers or something, are up
Yeah.
there on the balcony doing
Yeah.
a live streaming.
Yeah, sometimes they're streaming, they'll sit up there, and I go out to dinner, I take them out, and we just go out and talk, and I tell them I do this. I say, I'm taking my pastor hat off, and I'll have them laugh, and they're on the floor. But it's important for children to feel comfortable and to build relationship, because they're going to move on and go to another place. And most kids lose their faith by high school, and they definitely lose it in college, because I was a college chaplain too for a while.
Mm.
So, that was interesting with people coming in. They wanted to talk about sex, or some of them were coming out.
Mhm.
How do I talk to my parents about this? And I had all the, I forget, I was a Protestant chaplain. So that meant that I had, if you were Episcopalian, I had you. If you were Pentecostal, I had you. If you
Okay.
were Apostolic, if you were Presbyterian, and trying to do worship with all of them was wild, because I had to try to touch, something that was
Near
resonating
and dear
with them.
to them. and
Yeah,
their faith.
so I always vowed that if I became a pastor, when I finally said yes, that I would make it welcome for everybody, but that I would teach, because there were many years I struggled, and I was sitting and I said, what are they talking about? I didn't understand it, and you couldn't raise your hand and ask the questions like that's
Right.
So that's why I do it the way that I do.
Right. And you do it good.
Yeah.
You do it. I'm always so
I
proud.
try. I beat myself up though.
Yeah, no, you're good. You're good. I
myself up.
would take my hat off to you, but you
I
get
ain't
it.
taking it off today.
Yeah, I ain't gonna take it off now. But it's so much power being the first of something. Like, how do you balance that? being the first. And it's a lot of pressure that comes with that power.
Well, you don't have someone else most of the time that you can judge yourself from, right? You have to go and seek those people out because you're making mistakes and making a way for somebody else, right? So
Mhm.
I hope to leave the church in a better place when I leave. That if there's another black woman, white woman, if there's a man, whoever, that I made a mark.
Okay.
But I have to seek people out because there aren't many in that environment. So I know other pastors, I know Lynn and other, women in town, but their denominations are very different. So we can help each other and pray for each other and we can laugh, right? But when it comes to in this environment, I've got to find somebody who knows what it's like to be in a multicultural,
Mhm.
multi-age kind of, traditional church, and then how to bring the spirit into that.
Right.
And I've had some people who left. They were like, well, you say hallelujah and you're doing, I don't want that.
Right.
But that's how I respond, or I worship authentically. And we have to learn that too, that everybody needs to be their authentic selves. So I'm not telling anybody to raise their hand. I'm not telling anybody to say hallelujah, but I'm letting you know that I'm going to say that. And it
Right.
has nothing to do with them. It is my sense of thanksgiving. I am grateful. Don't make me cry on the thing. I'm, I'm grateful that God would even use me. I never had this expectation like some people like, well, I'm going to be God. No, I was like, God, you can't use me. Like, I've done this, I've been here. It's like, no.
Mhm.
The fact, I take it as an honor. And so when I do something wrong or I miss it, I'm like, God, forgive me. Because
Mhm.
first I hurt you,
Mhm.
right? So, I may not get it right with other people, and I try, but I got to have this right.
Right.
And that's what I work on. So the challenge for me is to do that and still be real,
Mhm.
right? And still be normal. And so that's one of the reasons that I'm excited that we connected. I know that was a God thing,
Mhm.
right? So that God had me in this place for several years where I didn't connect with other women. I didn't connect with them. I was just working. And then it got to a place that I really felt that that was missing. And so then I started, to connect with people who cared about me, who were going to tell me the truth. Now, I know one thing: you're going to tell the you're going to tell the truth, even if you want to hear it or not. You're going to do this. You can do this talk show. Come on,
Yeah.
But we need that. That's iron sharpens iron. So
So, what has leadership required from you that other people don't see? Like, what goes on behind closed doors being a leader that we don't get to see?
sacrifice. I mean, I woke up last night and I was finishing my sermon, and I went to bed at 3:30 in the morning. That was the only time I had to do it. Right? It means sometimes I'm not with my family. I don't always get to see my mom as much as I would like. So there's those sacrifices, and just sacrifice of my time.
How would you describe your leadership in 3 words?
Synergistic. I don't even know what that means really, but I.
It sounds
It
good.
sounded good, didn't it?
Synergistic.
Yeah, because I have energy, and see, I'm a flow person, and you met Shelly, so you understand that. Um, and so I need to have that. We need to be in synergy. We need to be in lockstep, and so
Mhm.
I really try to have that. But I also don't have any trouble correcting people. One of my mentors was a woman who was in the military, and that was the hardest person I ever worked for. But I thank God for her, Elizabeth
Mhm.
McDaniel. I haven't seen her in years, and she was. So if I have to do that, I can do that. But we need to be on the same plane, and we don't have to do it the same way, but we need to come together. And so, I believe you got to have a team. You got to have a team.
Okay, so synergistically, or
Hmm.
synergistic is one word. What's your other
Hmm.
two?
Well, I would say collaborative,
Okay.
respectful.
Okay. You got more?
They're
I
coming. I don't know.
okay. Yeah, I was just asking for
Yeah,
3. But you
yeah,
can, if you have more, I mean, like, you could just put it in just those, whatever it means to you. It
yeah.
doesn't have to be, I'm
It's
not going to
it's de-
limit you to 3
no.
words.
I'm thinking about developers. So nobody works with me and they don't learn what their gifts are, because they're not just working for me. God has allowed them to come in my path and me and others, so that they can know who they are. And so that means that I'm prompting them and pushing them to be the best that they can be, helping them to discover their gifts and
Mm.
talents, and for them to use them and for them to go on and do whatever they want to do.
I'm happy you said that because my next question, I was thinking that what would you say to someone who's called to lead, but they're battling with fear and doubt?
Feel the fear and do it anyway. If it's something that's intrinsic that you dealt with as a child, you got to go talk to somebody. I believe no leader should lead anybody without having had some therapy or having a therapist.
Okay.
You can't, because everything that happens in your life, I mean, everybody hasn't had trauma, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I get that. But it is helpful because you have to know who you are first. You have to know what your weaknesses are. I often tell women you need to know what your kryptonite is
Okay.
so you don't get caught, right? I'm not going to even go there anyway. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
If that's your kryptonite, then you need to go the other way.
Okay.
So, yeah.
All right. What do you feel that that people need in times like these in a pastor?
You need a pastor who's going to be real. You need a pastor who's going to touch on stuff that makes people uncomfortable. I have a few people who are upset um, because they feel that I'm hitting some of the stuff that's happening in the world too much. But that's what I'm called to do. I don't mention certain people's names because they're really not worth me mentioning, but they know what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And so somebody said to me this week, you prophesied what was going to happen, because I talked last week or 2 weeks ago about oil prices and what's going to happen at the gas pump. And they were like, you already talked about it. Well, I read, but it's important to be able to be in the now, right? So that people hear the truth, because people believe in lies. They don't know what the truth is.
Right.
So I push people. And if I mess up, because I can mess up, you need to go back to the scripture that I taught from, right? And look at it
Mm-hmm.
and make sure, because I can make mistakes too,
Right.
but we should all be learning and being open to. And I'm going to tell the truth. Jesus is justice, right? So why would that not be relevant right now?
Right.
But people don't want to hear it. They want to go to church and they want to just be. They want to hear about butterflies and bows. And I'm not a butterfly and bow person.
Right. You sure you got to talk about it?
Yeah, I'm going to talk about it. And I may bring you back to butterflies and bows because I like those too.
Right.
But that's not going to help you to survive.
You're going to bring us through the
I'm going to
trenches.
bring you through the trenches and make you open to come back to this place, because depending upon what happens, we may have people there. We got to be ready.
Right.
We don't know what's going to happen. We're going to have water. Are we going to have oil? Are we going to have
Right.
gas? Are we going to have, what are we going to have?
Right.
Where can we get food? People need to be comfortable to come in there and know that they're welcome.
So I was going to ask you, what would you say to a young black woman, a young black girl, who may possibly be called to be in a position like yourself, the first black female, the first female. But then I really don't want to just have it. I want you to say that answer, but then what would you say to all young women in general, regardless of what their color is?
Yeah.
But for being a black woman, walking behind a white pastor, who's been there for a half a century almost, and with an older congregation who
Yeah.
I'm sure you've faced some sort of, I don't want to call it prejudice because I don't want to put a label out there or put something out there that isn't.
Well, people aren't outwardly prejudiced in this environment. These churches, that's not
Okay.
but people would say something like, well, did you see those earrings she had on? Because, I like my big earrings every now and
Right.
then. Did you see those? The light was picking up on the ear. So I've had those kind of comments, or she had a big purse in the pulpit, So
Right.
all that stuff is, I tell young women to take time with themselves, even before relationships or any of those things, to spend time with yourself, get to know who you are. Because if you can't define yourself, somebody else is going to define you.
Absolutely.
Right. And you need to have some aunties, right? If
Mhm.
you don't have that in your mother, because we all don't have that. We all may not have a mother that's present. But I tell you, go somewhere and find yourself a black woman who is strong, who is loving, who is aspirational and who cares about you, and you connect, because that will give the foundation to go someplace else. So I was lucky that I had that in my mom, but I also had friends, mothers who were doing different things. So I was exposed as from a young girl, right, to other women. You know, one of her friends was a gym teacher, right? Another friend, Miss Blake, who lived down the street, was a nurse. And she was the head nurse at Mount Sinai Hospital in Hartford. And that was a big deal, right? This black woman, and people like, you better go to the eighth floor. Miss Blake will help you out. But I watched, and she was the first person to take me to a play in New York, right? So I got it from different women, you know, who exposed me to things.
Nice. When your chapter here is over, when your season at FCC, First Congregational Church of Norwalk, is over, what do you want your legacy to be? What do you want people to say about Reverend Tamara or Pastor Tamara when you've walked out the door?
So I don't see myself ending anything. I see myself transitioning to something else.
When you transition
Right,
to
right. You know, I'm enjoying this. You know, I don't know. Um,
it may be 40 years from now. But when that time is, you know, like what they
Yeah.
speak about Reverend Jordan,
Yeah.
you know, what do you want them to speak when they speak your name? What is it that you wish for?
She brought everything to the table. You know, she brought it all. She gave of herself, her time, her skills, and she prompted us. And I talked about Jesus, right? Not in a kind of way, but I encourage people to live according to the precepts and examples. You don't have to be a Christian to do that. Many people just follow the teachings.
Mhm.
They don't necessarily follow Jesus.
Right.
But that I brought people to a place where they could learn how to connect for themselves. But I've also had to learn you can bring somebody to the water, but they don't want to drink.
Right.
And that's the hard part for me when I see potential in somebody, because I can see stuff, you know, and I can see the potential. I can see their heart, and they just aren't ready. So I've had to learn to guard my heart and to pray for them and recognize none of them belong to me. They belong to God. God just made me a steward. So if people remember that I pushed them, and that I love them.
So before we close, yeah, before we close, what's one message or several messages that God has placed on your heart for the city of Norwalk?
Ooh, that's a big one, because I didn't want to come to Norwalk. I had actually just signed a contract to be someplace else, and I don't like get out of stuff like that, but I knew I was supposed to be here. And I don't know, there's so much change. The scripture that I used for my installation was that for such a time as this.
Yes.
So I know that God has called me here for such a time as this. I don't see the fullness of it, you know, but the way that God has allowed me to connect with the community, connect with leaders, people who are educators, you know, connect with you and others. There's something evolving here. You know, I hear preachers will say, you know, we're going to take the city and we're done. I don't, you know, that's not me. I don't use that language.
Mm-hmm.
But I believe that I'm called here to reconnect this church with this community and to be a beacon. So that when you see that steeple and you're driving around Norwalk, you know that there's something good happening there, and you know that you're welcome, and you know that it could change your life.
Nice. Isn't she fire? I just love her. Good fire, heavenly fire.
My knees are shaking, y'all. You know,
I love it. Is there anything that I did not ask that you want to share? Or whether I asked it or not, maybe you want to go back to something and you just want to speak on something.
Well, one of the things that helps me to do what I do is that I am a mother. And I am a fierce helicopter mom who's had to kind of relinquish some of that. But one of the things for me and for many people who are older is that I encourage us to learn from young people and have young people around. So my daughter is my secret weapon.
Okay.
Right? Because she will tell me, Ma, people don't say that anymore. You're outdated. Or, we'll have a dance party. She's like, Mom, we don't do, that same move we go to. She's like, Mom, we don't do that anymore. But my daughter will say to me things that I didn't get growing up from a Southern Black family. Like, I never heard that I was beautiful. Right? It wasn't that my family didn't believe that, but that was not what in the South.
Right.
They
That's
didn't
not
talk
what they
about
said.
stuff like that. And so I recognize my daughter. I'll be getting ready to go someplace, and she'll say, Mom, you are so beautiful.
Bethany.
Right? And I had to go, wow, And she taught me to really love in a different way. We do not talk. We don't see each other. We don't leave each other's presence without a hug or without an I love you. And so I watch her now being fierce. I mean, I don't want to say it publicly, but she just got into one of the schools that she wanted. And that little girl wrote a letter yesterday saying, I need more money.
Okay.
So I'm watching her. I'm watching seeds, right? But she has something. And so young people, I get excited. Like when I met your daughter, I'm like, she's going to say, Mom, what's wrong with her? She can be talking to me because I'm excited about young people.
Yeah.
Because that keeps us young, and it helps them to feel connected and grounded to do what they want to do.
Absolutely. BK keeps me on my toes. He does. BK, do you have any questions?
I try to keep you on your toes.
You,
I know it's
you do a
hard,
good
right?
job.
Yeah, not necessarily. I mean, you answered kind of everything, so I don't want to put you on the spot with anything else.
No,
but
we're vibing.
all right. So because I'm in and out of the church a lot with you as well, what is something that you guys are doing kind of in like the justice world? I know you're very into that, so
Yeah.
touch on that a bit.
So one of the things I did when I came was really looked at what Reverend Jordan had done, right? So you guys were there when he did Pivot Ministries. There's a Laura Raymond home he was involved in. He did the Elder House, the Christian Center. We used to have a halfway house. And so he was really involved in the justice world. And so not everybody had that vision in a traditional congregational church. So some of that was kind of on the wayside. And so sometimes to go forward, you have to go back to your roots and your history. And so I went back to that in a way of honoring his legacy. I think people were talking about naming a street after him. And I remember having a conversation with his son. He was like, my father really wouldn't care about a street. I said, well, what about the Justice Institute? He said, yeah. So we established the Jordan Social Justice Institute. And so through that is where we have our book discussions and we bring people in to speak. Sunday we're doing a book by Ta-Nehisi Coates. We had the woman from Connecticut Nonviolence. We're going to be training people in that technique. It's the technique based on Martin Luther King's philosophy. So we do things like that through the book club and just to bring people together. So there's a reason that we have lunch and we do it afterwards because I'm trying to build coalitions. But people just need to be in each other's space.
Right.
So I get in trouble because I spend a lot of money on food and stuff. But there's a reason. Like there's not much that I do without a reason, right? I've thought it through. And so if people can get together and learn something about justice and have a meal, that's powerful. And the last thing, we were learning songs of resistance.
Right.
So we'll see.
Well, this has been powerful.
Okay.
This has been powerful.
Thank you.
And I'm so happy that I got the opportunity to sit with you and ask you these questions, interview you. And it didn't feel like an interview. It felt more like a conversation of things that I wanted to know. And if I want to know them, I'm sure you want to know them. Like other people want to know them. So thank you for your leadership in our community, your presence in our community, your impact, your motivation for other people who look up to you, who learn from you, like myself. Thank you for always doing a good job, for always being prepared, and for making us proud. And I'm saying us as a community because it's not just me, it's other people watching. They call on you for a reason. It's not just because I think you're good. I think you're smart. I think you come prepared. You show up and you show off and you sharpen, and that's important. That's important, especially coming from a pastor because people do sometimes they they frown upon pastor. Oh, she's a reverend, or she's a, but
Yeah, I
you're,
know.
it's different now. You're a treacher, just
Treacher,
like you
yeah.
said. But I want to say a treacher, because
Okay.
you're a treat also to listen to and to
Yeah.
learn from.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that. I
Thank you.
appreciated you from the moment I met you.
Thank you.
So, and I'm happy that, the good old hair salon to connect people together, it never fails. That's like the real talk show. That's the
No, it
real
is.
platform.
And I cried when I first found, because I was here for years and hadn't found a place. But every black woman ought to have a black salon.
That's right, because
There's nothing like it.
it's like BK said. What what BK told me?
What?
He said the black salon is what the deli is to white people.
Yeah.
Didn't you
Yeah.
tell me that?
Yeah, we have like a deli or like a coffee house, cafe or
Yeah,
something.
because people need a
Same
place
people
where you
every
go.
day.
Yeah. See,
Yeah.
I'm dating myself now, but there was a show out years ago called Cheers.
We remember
Yeah.
Cheers,
Yeah.
where everybody knows your
Yeah,
name.
everybody knows
Uh-huh.
your name. Everybody needs that.
Yeah.
Right? And, that's where I met Mel. I mean, there's nothing like being in that place where I feel like comfort. I feel like I'm at home. And so, that helps. But it's always two-way. That's what I tell people. It's always two-way. You never, no matter what you learn from somebody else, they're learning something from you as well. It's always two-way. So, I've learned so much from you, from Darlene and other people that I've met in the community. So we got to keep moving.
That's right.
I'm excited.
Yeah, me too.
I'm
I it's no
excited.
telling what the future has, and what you're going to say, and all that you're going to do.
I just fall forward.
I love it. Keep
Fall
falling forward.
Yeah, I've fallen down a lot. A lot of stuff hasn't worked, but I just get up and keep going.
More stuff has than hasn't. So I appreciate that.
See, she helps me. She preaches to me. I'll be like, oh, I feel down today.
Come on
No,
up.
come on up, right? Yeah. So,
Yeah.
thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome, sincerely. And thank you guys. I hope you learned a bit about our first female pastor, who happens to be black, first one, at the First Congregational Church of Norwalk. Once again, thank you all for tuning in. This is Women's Month, and we're going to take our hats off, and we're just going to congratulate the women as we see it. So thank you, and I'll see you again soon. Ciao.
Bye.